You've been performing for so long, you forgot who you were before the applause. You don't need a new identity. You need to come home to the one you abandoned. It's time to change the narrative. It's time to recognize who you are. You are not an imposter. You are not a mistake. You are not a placeholder in your own life. You have suffered long enough. Your journey was not supposed to be filled with self-doubt at every turn. You didn't get here by yourself. It's time to renegotiate the terms of your being and belonging. You don't have to sacrifice your peace, well-being, or self-confidence to measure up to a superficial standard. It's time to think about who you are at your core, away from the noise, comparison, and imposter thoughts. We all have instincts, and what society will have us to believe is that our instincts require vetting to ensure that what we are thinking is acceptable. It stops here. Right here, right now is where we do the work. You have a purpose, and it's time to trust your instincts. Don't get me wrong, I am all for the intellectual aspects of who we are as individuals. It is essential to how we show up and advocate for ourselves and on behalf of others who can't advocate for themselves. But it's your instinct. You were born with it. It is part of the foundation of who you are. But let's go a bit further, because it's time to position your instincts with feelings that consume you of being an imposter or unworthy. Here is something you need to understand about the feeling of being a fraud. It is not your instinct speaking. It never was. What imposter phenomenon does quietly and persistently is intercept the signal. It takes that clear, clean, knowing voice that rises up inside of you, and it drowns it under a flood of borrowed opinions, inherited fears, and the internalized judgments of people who may not have even meant you well. The voices you hear when you walk into a room and suddenly feel like you don't belong, those are not yours. Those are the accumulated whispers of every person who underestimated you, every system that asked you to shrink, every space that made you prove yourself before it would let you breathe. Your instinct is underneath all of that noise, steady and unshaken, waiting. The feeling of being an imposter is not a revelation about who you are. It is a residue of what others poured into you, and residue can be washed away. Think back before the degrees, before the titles, before the LinkedIn profiles and the performance reviews and the comparison spiral. There was a moment, a knowing. Maybe you were a child who saw a problem and knew exactly how to fix it before anyone else could articulate what was wrong. Maybe you were a teenager who walked into a room and felt a pull toward a path so clearly that it almost frightened you. Maybe you were a young adult who made a decision from your gut and it turned out to be the best decision of your life, not because you had all the data, but because something in you simply knew. That knowing was your instinct. It showed up for you before the world had the chance to complicate it. And here is what is important for you to hear today. It is still there. The credentials did not replace it. The self-doubt did not destroy it. The comparison did not erase it. It is still there, waiting for you to trust it again. You have suffered long enough. Your journey was not supposed to be filled with self-doubt at every turn. And when I say suffered, I want to name it specifically because you deserve to have it named. You have suffered by making yourself smaller in rooms you earned the right to occupy. You have suffered by over-explaining your credentials to people who never asked because some part of you believed that your presence needed a constant defense. You have suffered by apologizing for your ideas, apologizing for your questions, apologizing for taking up space at the table as though your chair was borrowed and not rightfully yours. You have suffered through the sleepless nights before the big presentation. convincing yourself that this would be the moment everyone would finally see through you. You have suffered by watching others move with a confidence you told yourself you did not possess, when the truth is that confidence was always in you too, buried under layers of doubt that were never yours to carry. I see you. I want you to see yourself. So what does renegotiation actually look like in practice? It looks like saying no without writing a dissertation to justify it. It looks like walking into a room without rehearsing your worth in the hallway first. It looks like letting your presence be the proof, not your resume, not your list of accomplishments, not the preemptive speech you prepared in case someone questioned why you were there. Renegotiation looks like trusting the first answer that comes to you in the meeting instead of second guessing it until someone else says the exact same thing and gets the credit. It looks like sending the email without reading it 7 times for tone. It looks like raising your hand first. It looks like claiming your expertise with the same ease that you grant it to others without question. This is the work, and it is not small work, but it is yours to do, and you are more than ready for it. Let us talk about intellect for a moment, because this is important. Intellect is a gift. Your mind, your training, your ability to think critically and analytically, all of it is extraordinary, and it serves you. But there is a difference between intellect serving you and intellect being weaponized against you. When someone demands that you prove yourself before they will listen. When access is gated behind credentials that certain people were never given a fair path to obtain. When the bar keeps moving every time you get close to clearing it. That is not intellect at work. That is gatekeeping dressed up in academic clothing. That is a system designed to make you feel like an imposter. Because an imposter who keeps proving themselves is an imposter who never fully arrives. Do not confuse the weapon with the gift. Your intellect is yours. Your instinct is yours. Neither one of them belongs to the system that tried to use them against you. You have suffered long enough. Your journey was not supposed to be filled with self-doubt at every turn. And that suffering was real. I will never minimize it, not for a second. The tears were real. The exhaustion was real. The moments of standing in front of the mirror, asking yourself whether you were actually capable, those were real and they cost you something. But here is where we turn. That suffering was never the whole story. It was a chapter, a long, heavy, difficult chapter, but not the ending, not your ending, because you are still here. You kept going when every internal alarm was telling you to retreat. You sat in the discomfort and you did the work anyway. And that is not the behavior of someone who does not belong. That is the behavior of someone who is exactly where they are supposed to be. The pivot starts now. The next chapter does not open with doubt. It opens with you, belonging. Let us sit with that word for a moment, because imposter phenomenon has a very specific lie it tells you about belonging. It whispers that you snuck in. It tells you that you got lucky, that someone made a mistake, that if the right people looked closely enough, they would discover that you were never supposed to be there. But your instinct, your original, unedited, born with you instinct, knew you belonged in that space before the world ever gave you permission to say so out loud. You belonged before the acceptance letter. You belonged before the promotion. You belonged before the applause and the recognition and the external validation that imposter phenomenon told you were the only proof that counted. Belonging is not a reward for performance. It is not something you earn by suffering enough or proving enough or shrinking enough. Belonging is something you carry. It was always inside of you. Imposter phenomenon just convinced you to look for it in everyone else's hands. And then there is comparison, the quiet thief that social media handed a master key to your mind. You scroll and you see the polished highlight reels, the announcements, the accolades, the milestones of colleagues and peers who seem to be moving faster, further, with less visible effort than you. And in that moment of scrolling, your instinct gets drowned out completely by the noise of what everyone else is doing and becoming. Here is what happens when you mute that noise. And I mean really mute it, intentionally, deliberately. You come home to yourself. You remember what you care about. You remember the direction you were walking before the comparison pulled you sideways. You hear the instinct again, and it sounds exactly like it always did. Clear, purposeful, and certain. The world will always have someone ahead of you by some metric, but no one, not one single person in the world is ahead of you on the path that is yours alone. That path only has one walker, and you already know the way. You have suffered long enough. Your journey was not supposed to be filled with self-doubt at every turn. And I need you to hear that not as a comfort this time, not as a gentle hand on the shoulder. I need you to hear it as a declaration of power. You are not going back. You are not going back to the version of yourself that apologized for existing. You are not going back to rehearsing your worth in parking lots before walking through doors you had every right to open. You are not going back to editing yourself down to a size that made other people comfortable with your presence. That chapter is closed, not because the world changed overnight, not because the systems that tried to diminish you have suddenly been dismantled, but because you have changed. You have done the interior work. You have named the voices that were not yours and chosen not to carry them anymore. You are standing now in the full weight and authority of who you actually are. And that is not a small thing. That is everything. So here is what instincts beating intellect actually looks like going forward. It looks like trusting the first voice, the one that speaks before the fear has a chance to revise it. It looks like moving with intention, with your shoulders back and your vision clear, not because everything is figured out, but because you trust the part of you that always finds the way. It looks like releasing the grip you have held on external validation, the approval, the nods, the praise, and discovering that your footing is actually more solid without it than you ever imagined it could be. It looks like being a person who acts from the inside out instead of constantly building yourself from the outside in. Your instinct is not reckless. It is not naive. It is the most honest intelligence you have ever possessed, and it has been trying to guide you this whole time. Today, you listen. Today, you lead with it. You were called into this space, every room, every opportunity, every relationship, not by accident, not by someone else's charity, but by the full weight of who you are. Walk like you know that, because now you do. Before you go, the Impostor Phenomenon Mini-Guide is a free digital workbook designed to help you recognize self-doubt, reclaim your confidence, and own every accomplishment you've earned. No fluff, no toxic positivity, just real tools that work. If you're listening on a podcast platform, the link is in the description. If you're on YouTube, it's pinned in the channel links as well. Go grab it. It's waiting for you. So take a breath, settle in, and let's begin the work of separating who you are from who you've been performing to be. Because it's time to stop performing and start belonging. Welcome to the work. Welcome to the becoming. Welcome to unmasking the imposter. Thank you for listening to the Impostor Phenomenon Podcast. If today's episode opens something in you, share it with someone who needs this conversation too. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to go deeper, get ready to join our community where we're doing the real work of reclaiming identity, rewriting narratives, and rebuilding belonging from the inside out. Remember, You are not an imposter. You are not a mistake. You are the author, and your story is far from